What are lectins and why are they so bad for us? Hi, welcome to Big City Mom channel. My name is Sylvia and I blog and vlog about health through nutrition and lifestyle in the big city of New York. Years ago, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. It took me many trials and errors to figure out what was really wrong with me. However, few months ago, I was able to reverse my autoimmunity through diet and nutrition. I was so blown away with the results that gave me the final push to start this YouTube channel. So if you are on this journey yourself, you should definitely subscribe, and let's build a community of people that are able to reverse chronic disease through diet and nutrition. Okay, let's get to today's video. Lectins are proteins that bind to carbohydrates and are mostly found in plants. Plants make lectins to repel microorganisms, insects, and any other creature interested in eating them, including humans. We cannot digest lectins. Instead, they pass through our digestive system largely unchanged. Occasionally, those of us genetically predisposed might run into problems with lectins, especially if you eat a lot of them for an extended period of time. I must admit, I was quite ignorant about the topic of lectins, even though I was dealing with autoimmunity for many years. I did figure out that gluten was one of those compounds that was giving me some of the worst arthritic flare-ups. However, it never occurred to me that gluten was a lectin. Also, when you do any research about rheumatoid arthritis, you will learn that you are better off removing nightshade vegetables from your diet. And nightshade vegetables are potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, goji berries, cayenne pepper. So I did remove them, and many people report that when they eliminate nightshade vegetables from their diet, they feel a lot better. And that is because there's a specific type of lectins found in nightshade vegetables that are particularly aggravating for people with rheumatoid arthritis. Again, only recently I understood that it was lectins that were so problematic in those vegetables. For most people, lectins don't pose any danger. Especially that we learn to reduce the amount of lectins in our food by soaking, cooking, sprouting, and fermenting. However, none of these processes completely eliminate lectins from our food. So those of us that deal with leaky gut issues or immunity or any other chronic disease may run into the problems with lectins. So what do these lectins do for those of us that are susceptible? Lectins can bind to our intestinal wall. As food passes through the gut, it will inflict a minor damage to the lining of our GI tract. Normally, our cells repair really quickly and all is well, but if you are prone to it and or eat a diet that is really high in lectins, that damage might become more chronic and become what we know as leaky gut. This will then allow lectins to get past the intestinal barrier into our bloodstream and interact with our immune system. And this becomes one of the aspects of autoimmunity. And while we are talking about autoimmunity, lectins are also known as sticky proteins because they not only bind to carbohydrates but also to glycoproteins and glycolipids, the little hairs that stick out from the membranes of our cells, and they attach to them tightly. Our immune system recognizes them as invaders and sends antibodies against them, destroying the healthy cells in the process. And I can experience this as joint inflammation in my rheumatoid arthritis. Lectins can make you gain weight or prevent you from losing it. And this happens because lectins have the ability to bind to insulin receptors, signaling to your body that we need to store more fat or to hold on to the fat we already have. Now imagine the following scenario. You are already on a low carbohydrate diet, you replaced your starchy vegetables with leafy greens and your sweets and fruit with nuts. And yet, this last 10-15 pounds will just not budge. Now, you might find the answers in cutting out of the foods high in lectins. This definitely was a case for me. So I wanted to maintain ketosis, but sometimes the cravings would be really hard and I had to do something about it, so I would snack on nuts. And while I was successful in maintaining my ketosis, I was also successful in keeping my weight. When I finally cut out the lectins, the last 10 pounds actually came off fairly easily too. And while we are talking about weight loss, lectins can bind to leptin receptors, leptin with a P. This is a hormone that signals to our brain to stop eating. In other words, this is a satiety hormone. But when lectins attach to those receptors, they make us a lot more hungry than we need to be. They actually demonstrated it in the animal studies. They were feeding mice a really high lectin diet, and mice had an unusually high appetite and were gaining crazy weight. But when they removed the lectins from their diet, mice's appetite normalized and they lost the weight. Lectins can disrupt communication between the cells. When one neuron tries to send a message to another neuron, a lectin gets in between, preventing that communication. And we experience this as the mental fog or the inability to concentrate. In fact, lectins can bind to many different receptors in the human body. They can bind to the receptors on the muscles or on the brain cells. Normally, these receptors would respond to insulin and provide energy for the cells to function. If instead lectin gets in there and blocks that receptors, the cell cannot receive energy, let's say glucose, to function. And if this happens for long enough or on a large scale, the cell will end up dying. Now, many cells may die, and this is what we diagnose as Parkinson's or different forms of dementia. This is probably why ketogenic diets are so effective at slowing down or even reversing some of these diseases, because ketones get to the cells, bypassing that receptors and provide for energy anyway. One other way lectins can travel is they get into the women's reproductive systems and attach to the endometrial tissue. And this was demonstrated in women with unexplained infertility. We now understand quite well the role of gluten, a lectin, in the celiac disease and in the leaky gut syndrome. However, other chronic diseases are almost never linked with overconsumption or just regular consumption of lectins. Now, granted, lectins will inflict this type of damages if they can get past our intestinal barrier, but again, that brings me back to the gut health, which seems to be at the center of all chronic diseases. Not surprisingly then, anybody that gets on the carnivore or paleo-ketogenic diet reports major improvement in all kinds of very different chronic diseases, for which mainstream medicine has no cure and can only manage symptoms. Now, as you can imagine, these diets are completely devoid of lectins. And wouldn't it be great if we could reverse all these nasty, debilitating conditions just by cutting out of lectins out of our diet? Okay, so this will do it for this week's video. I hope you found it valuable. Before you go, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!